It's Chuck from Above the Basement, Boston Music and Conversation. How would you like to join us in creating great conversations that inspire and connect? Patreon is a membership platform that provides a way for creators like us to build relationships and provide exclusive experiences to subscribers or patrons. We have been self-financed since we got off the ground in June of 2016, but in order to continue to fully invest all we can in each episode, reach more listeners, tell more stories, and create more content than ever before, we need your patronage. For more information, please go to patreon.com/above the basement.
You come out Friday late to hang out Riverside. You bring a couple of friends, I bring the good wine. And there, I'm stumbling over my tongue. I know this isn't a game. You're like a holy book written in a foreign tongue. I try to understand, I'll just pull you under. And there, you send a smile, then I'm lost. Yeah, I'm now spinning again. And if you wanna talk about it, come out Saturday night. This small town joint on the east side, back to tell somebody. There ain't no mystery to the way that we could get down. I feel a little lighter.
Coming out of Berklee College of Music, Ripe has been called many things, from neo-soul to funk pop to jam band. But whatever genre they fall into, their infectious licks, lyrical grooves, and high-energy performances made us immediate fans. We sat with 3/7 of the band out in Allston, Massachusetts, a week or so after seeing them blow away the crowd at the Paradise. Singer Robbie Wulfsohn, guitarists Tory, Geismar, and John Becker joined us for a conversation about their roots, vision, and the love they have for the fans, which is a palpable entity if you have ever been to a Ripe show. They are about to embark on a big tour, which includes a stop at the Levitate Music and Arts Festival on July 7th in Marshfield, Massachusetts. Levitate is a community-oriented surf, skate shop, and apparel line based out of Marshfield, and through the festival, they seek to support both local and national musicians. Be sure to grab your tickets and get more information at levitatemusicfestival.com. So here's our conversation with Robbie, Tory, and John from Ripe, recorded at their apartment in Allston, Massachusetts. All right, we're rocking. All right, sorry about that, fellas. Just takes a little bit to get going, but here we are.
I'm a little intimidated with you standing.
I stood for Charles Haynes.
He told us he's a stander, so we've been prepped. If you can just hold a squat for the next 25 minutes.
I can.
Puts me at ease as well.
Thanks, guys, for having us over.
Thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so we saw this, I guess, the second show, right? It wasn't the first show. It was the second show at the Paradise, and it was fantastic. We had a great time.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was our goal.
That was your goal, specifically. Packed house. You get sold out both nights, and everyone was singing along. Everybody was singing along.
That was pretty surreal. First song of the first night was a single that we dropped about a month ago.
Is that the...
Little Lighter.
Little Lighter, okay.
And...
There you go. Just toward your mouth a little bit more. There you go. You can move it wherever you want.
Yeah, no, I got it, I think.
Yeah.
He almost started to sing there.
Yeah, no, immediately put a microphone in front of me and I just start getting my B game ready. I don't know what I was expecting, but having the first words of the first song be like screamed back at you like they're mad at you was totally disarming in a really awesome way. I'm still getting over the fact that people were singing along to the extent that they were.
Had that not happened to you before?
I think that certain songs, like I think that Goon Squad and Talk to the Moon often had crowd response fairly early on. The extent to which it went down these two nights at the Paradise blew me away. People were doing it without any instruction. People were doing it with zero prompting. Like they were just off to the races and doing their own thing, which was crazy.
Yeah, they were pumped up. So you could hear them and see them. What about you guys with some of the, all three of you with the instrumental stuff? Because I was over on stage left, I guess, with the horn section a little bit.
Well, we kind of moved around.
I can see, when I was there, I could see people expecting some of the riffs.
For sure. I mean, a lot of it is like riff-driven stuff, at least in that corner of the stage. Me, Josh, and Calvin, like specifically with a song like Little Lighter, that kind of horn hook, like ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. I like pseudo-join the horn section on certain songs.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good example of that one, for sure. But
I thought specifically with that one, it was almost as if the guitar was another, like you just said, another horn, because you were in unison in some of those lines.
We definitely are a little, like a horn section from time to time, which a lot of people have, like friends of mine at least who are musicians, like are like, oh yeah, that's a cool thing. Like not a lot of people really do that, and it definitely makes it interesting in the writing room sometimes, trying to figure out like what won't be cheesy when you try and make up for like a saxophone or something else that would fill that slot in a horn section.
Yeah, I guess stepping back a little bit, we are in the ripe abode right now.
Or
one of two.
One of the ripe abodes.
So we're in one of two. It's a big band, so you have to have more than one, probably.
But there's only two. So all the rest of you live in one apartment?
Yep.
So, in this complex?
No.
I'm the outlier.
Slightly adjacent to this complex.
Okay, so nearby. We're in Allston land.
Brighton, yeah.
Allston, Brighton land, cool.
10-minute walk.
And we have, and just introduce ourselves. So who do we have over here? We have Chuck.
You don't need to introduce ourselves. Everybody knows who we are.
Everybody.
It's Carl and Donnie, right?
Yeah, right.
Carl and Donnie.
Sorry.
Carl and Donnie.
Chuck
Yeah.
and Ronnie for those of us at home.
We're really happy that we get to spend time with you guys and right prior to your tour. And I know this has been, we were talking off air before, that it's a wild ride, and we want to talk about whatever. But we just got introduced to you guys recently, and we hear something really special. And I think we started off at the gate talking about how the fans, you're resonating with the fans, which is fantastic already. And that's what it's all about, is like human beings rather than Facebook shares and things like that. I want to hear about that perspective. So anyway, thank you guys for having us here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I guess we can also just say our names for the first few times around.
Yeah,
So
there
they,
you
you know.
That's what I was
Sure,
thinking.
why not? And actually,
hi.
then I'll be able to line up the tracks with who's who when this is, because it's all screwed up now. And I'll be
Okay,
able
cool.
to figure it out.
So this will help us on the Pro Tools
There
end
you
as
go.
well.
Yeah, I forget we're not
Perfect.
like live on the air.
We're not live on
right
the
now.
air. No, this all gets
The only
edited
time I've had
down.
one of these
Excellent,
microphones like set up like this in front of me was live.
Yeah, so no, this is not live.
But it'll be live, but you'll fix us.
Everybody will sign.
Fix it in
Genius.
post. That's what we say.
Go ahead, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Robbie. I sing in the band. I think that something that we focus on a lot, and something that you kind of came right out the gate with saying, is the aspect of community at the shows that we play as a part of the music that we make is huge to us. It's unbelievable to have this stuff leave our hands and take root around people that are, ideally using our music to feel something, and, if we're lucky, something good, and to feel that together and to have that feeling be amplified because it's being felt in so many similar but still nuanced ways by all these different people who are still coming together and kind of lifting everybody else up on their shoulders, and so the whole thing becomes elevated.
Eyes like water, heart like hunger, and like mine, feel heart like thunder. Earth starts with white wine. Now we're in daylight. I keep you crazy while you keep me upright. And we were not surprised to find each other's eyes responding to the moment, all chasing after what we both wanted. Dive uncharted waters. Tomorrow's a whispered promise until you cue me with goodbye. And you keep saying, yeah, don't be nervous, things aren't black or white. But is this only your decision till you change your mind? This love keeps.
That's what it feels like to me on stage, yelling at people as part of that moment. I hope I'm right, but it's just a crazy thing to watch both us add to our own world and kind of help flesh out on our end what it means to be a part of this community and what it means to be a part of Ripe as the experience, while simultaneously having this stuff kind of get away from us. And there are people that come up to us in specific cities that have used our music and built our music into stories in their own lives. People are spreading our music because of what it feels like to them rather than specifically what it feels like to us being stamped onto their foreheads. And to watch this kind of expand beyond what the seven of us are able to yell in people's ears is really exciting.
Well said.
Well said. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
Yeah, no, good talk.
And
Very good.
thank you for what you said before. That was a pretty nice compliment. It's cool to see that recognized by other people who also hopefully feel that feeling. Otherwise, perhaps maybe you guys wouldn't be there. Yeah, it's cool.
You guys started off in Berklee. You met pretty early.
You made like your first year, right? Is that right?
First week.
First week.
Yeah.
You're all done now. Everybody's done, right?
Some of us are graduated and yet somehow didn't graduate, but we all walked.
Okay, you all walked. Excellent.
Good.
I did not walk. I skipped that.
All right, well, I just lied. So
No, I graduated. I just didn't walk.
You know, I remember meeting guys in college, you know, my first few weeks too, and I'll never forget meeting some core friends I made, and I played in a band as well. But there's something to be said for meeting and connecting, but also growing and creating something.
That's pretty special that you meet the first week and you're still in the same band 4 years later through college, which is like all hell breaks loose in college. You never know what's happening in college, you know?
Granted, it's a music school, so
Yeah.
I mean, there's something there that's certainly part of your daily bread, but you're still, at the end of the day, when we look back, you guys are in a band like every other band has struggles, and they're growing together.
It was definitely a super organic process. So a couple years prior to school, a bunch of us actually had done the Berklee 5-week program. Like, I remember seeing Robbie at the 5 week, seeing him perform with the Tower of Power ensemble or something where he was playing some Tower of Power. I was like, that guy's fucking awesome. He can really sing. But I never said a word to him, and I didn't see him. And I saw Josh around as well. And so Sam and I were living together the first year of Berklee, and we were within our extended crew that we had just started developing. We were kind of the only ones off campus at that point. So we were throwing a lot of parties, and it all kind of just like happened, and right from the beginning, like probably the first party, I think, and we like wrote a tune that night. Tells you kind of a little bit what a Berklee party's like. We definitely cycled through a couple of different bass players before we found Nadav, but like Robbie called Josh for the first session we did, which was probably a month after we had written that first tune, and then eventually Josh like invited Calvin and this other saxophone player who's no longer with us in the band.
He's still
alive, but he's no longer
I'm
with
glad
Right.
you're here.
And John, I feel like maybe chime in and like.
Well, I wasn't the second guitar player in the band because Tory's the first guitar player in the band. But I was roommates with Kevin Basco, and he played guitar in the band before I did. And I firmly believe, I think half the reason I'm in this band is because I owned a car. So I was friends from day one, but I started as a fan, and then they started getting booked on shows like Pittsburgh and places they needed to drive. And I just figured, like, you know, fuck it, I have a car, like, let's drive, let's go have fun. Started that. Then I kind of started managing for a little while, helping out the guys on the business end of things.
Okay.
And then when Kevin decided he wanted to leave the band and go on to do more of his own music and writing his own
decided to learn the
songs.
guitar?
It's pretty
well,
obvious.
he kind of trained me, you know. He taught me all the songs, and it was a very smooth transition, I think. But
But now, were you all instrument majors? You were guitar major, or
well, it's at Berklee you have both a principal instrument
Right.
and a major.
Okay.
So my principal instrument was guitar, but my major was music business.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And how about yourself?
I started in production and engineering and then switched tacks to something that would let me take a bunch of majors under one major called professional music.
Okay. And what about yourself?
I did the same thing pretty much for the purpose of being able to pursue RIPE at its full capacity, whatever that was at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, guitar, obviously,
Yeah.
and then pro music.
So you knew early on, this wasn't year 3 and 4. You could tailor your academic life to fit something that felt the band was feeling good early on.
I think so. There was definitely an element of things just clicked in really quick succession, like the songs and finding those first handful of performances so that you can actually be a band that plays in front of people as opposed to a band that exists only in a bedroom or a basement. Those things came kind of naturally to us right out the gate. So we were coming from this weird vantage point of the stuff that is oftentimes difficult, like what does the music sound like and how the hell are you going to play a show, had kind of acquired a momentum of their own fairly early on. And the fact that what it was all coming back to was 7 close friends who were on top of everything else in it because they genuinely liked being in the same room and pursuing this creative thing with each other kind of allowed us to immediately buy into the fact that there was some momentum and start to make this a thing that was more and more like what we wanted to do with our lives musically. Mm-hmm. I think speaking personally, a lot of bands form at Berklee and almost all of them wind up breaking up, some of them fairly quickly.
That's why I was surprised, like, so early in the game, the first week you were there, not necessarily the same people in it when you finally left, but
I would say,
that's
like,
pretty amazing.
and even like the new people, like as John said, like he was with us from day one, whether or not he happened to be on guitar on day one. It's a work in progress. We're figuring these out.
But I think that it's almost like the band was your internship while you were going to school, learning all the things you needed to do to get that band going. So you work in the music business and production. So you're taking everything that you're doing from day one when you got there and putting it right into the band. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We actually even had a RIPE ensemble at Berklee, which was like for some of your classes, you do ensembles, which is just a band,
Yeah.
and you like get together once a week and you perform songs, and at the end of the semester you do a performance. So we were able to do kind of a directed study, if you will, that was the Ripe Ensemble. And
It's smart because you guys are all in it for music, you form a great band, and then at the same time you're killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah, it was like, let's get
It's
college
all
credit for this
into
thing.
your credits. And through the school experience, did you connect with other growing bands that were feeling it as well, or did you guys think that, wait a second, I think we're some of the only people at Berklee now that are sticking through this?
There was definitely a bunch of bands that were kind of forming and happening at the same time. Like when we first started, I think that was a pretty good year for Berklee. I don't know now. A lot of bands formed that year.
I think Honeysuckle did then too, right?
Honeysuckle did that too, yeah.
Honeysuckle formed as Grey Season. Two of the members of Grey Season wound up joining Holly and forming Honeysuckle as like an offshoot of that.
Okay.
And then Grey Season folded and Honeysuckle stuck around.
There was a band called the Interlopers. We've got buddies that are now, some of them out in LA, and a bunch of bands. Another one called Viva La Hop, and I think they probably stuck around for the longest in addition to us in terms of like our era of Berklee bands.
Just out of curiosity, I wonder if when you first get to Berklee, is there kind of a little bit of a panic? Like I gotta start playing with people. I gotta get a band together. I gotta get some kind of project going. Is there like a race to see?
I think it's like I got a shed.
SHED.
Like hit the shed is Berklee term for practice, but I think it extends a bit beyond.
I was going to say, at least speaking for myself, I think a lot of people at Berklee come there with the mentality that you're very talented and you're really good at what you do, and then you come to a place where every single person is that good at what they do, probably better.
Yeah.
And then you're all of a sudden surrounded by a bunch of super talented people, and you kind of go into a state of anxiety about whether you're even doing the thing you should be doing, or if you even have a shot, because there's so many other people trying to do the exact same thing.
Right.
And it's kind of frightening in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the retention rate to sophomore year might be like below 50%.
Well, to that point, I went to Berklee for just 1 year.
Hey.
And I did really well. I got a 3.9. It's the best I've ever done in my life. And I knew that if I went back, I remember my guitar teacher, I took the test, and after he left, I got an A. And he's like, after that, he's like, I don't know how you did that. How did you get an A? Last week when we rehearsed for this, I was gonna fail you, and you got an A on it. And I'm like, I think I'm done here. I think that's it. I'm not gonna be able to. It's not easy to do. And
Fear of
I
success?
just didn't have the drive. You have to have the drive. You have to live, eat, breathe.
You got to
And
be
I
that
wasn't
certain
able to
kind
do
of
that.
crazy.
Yeah, you do. You do. And to your point, I got there, I'm like, the first thing I thought of was like, I suck.
Yeah.
I'm not any good at this.
Yep.
It's cool to see that no matter what the chops are or how good you guys are, you certainly had a artistic style or a vibe. You can't teach a vibe in a curriculum. You can't be like, here's this algorithm. You're going to do this, you're going to learn this, you're going to do this, and then this vibe is created from these 2 courses you took and this method. And at the end of the day, whether you're in Berklee or not, you guys have created something that you can't really teach. We saw you guys at the Paradise. I've seen a lot of bands, and it's not just hearing the studio stuff, but it's being in the live environment. And yeah, it's the people that come and see you and how they connect with each other that actually says a lot about what your vibe is. And I don't know, I have to do more Ripe research, okay? I have to learn more about you guys because I'm a Ripe newbie. But I can
You got
look
your
back.
socks now, so
I can look back, and I'm going to finish with a point in a second, but
Take your time.
I can look back in Burlington, Vermont, when I started college in '89, and I went to a place called The Front in the Outback and saw a band called Fish.
also socks.
You got fish socks on?
rocking the fish socks.
Boy,
Oh yeah, and I'm wearing Ripe socks. Oh, look at that. We're touching
we
feet.
traded,
There's a
man.
We
theme.
just met.
Oh, no.
This should be like
no.
this should be like basketball jerseys. You trade football jerseys. You trade socks at the end of this. Is that how it works?
I kind of want to keep my fish socks, but
you don't want his socks.
He
so-
won't admit to it, but they are his lucky socks.
Yeah,
Were
they
those
might
made
have a
out of
very
natural
specific
fibers?
purpose, those fish socks.
These are actually made of John Fishman's hair.
What I was really struck with was it took me back to being a student in Burlington and hearing this band for the first time and saying, A, I'm sold, B, what the hell is this? And C, I want to hear this again. There wasn't as much what the hell is this with you guys because that's not your vibe.
Thank you.
But Fish started off a little more esoteric, of course, with Junta and, this crazy creations that they came up with. But they always had a locking
An
beat
underlying
groove as
thing,
well,
right.
and they had hits that were coming out of the in the 90s and stuff. Anyway, what I was able to see,
I can hear Robbie like in his head being like, "Welcome, this is a fun."
So anyway, what I was really intrigued about was that, just to take the analogy, is that I heard something in the music that was not just classic quote-unquote jam band. It had pieces that were certainly scripted, but between that you could improv. At the end of the day, it was also had enough pop sensibility.
That's awesome. All 7 of us do agree on the danger element of everything really being executed by the 7 guys on stage and improvisation being involved in the music we make. I think all 7 band members would immediately say that that's a core part of what they do.
Sorry, you mentioned danger. Say
Yes.
that. What do you mean by that?
I think the fact that if you really get it all wrong, the whole thing falls apart. Like, there are some bands across genres that will have some things pre-recorded or something set up in a way where it's just going to go off without a hitch so that the show is perfect every time. The idea that at any point it really is reliant on all 7 of us being at the top of our game, really getting every note right. To me, that kind of raises the stakes of what you are connecting with as a fan and as a musician. There just is no aspect of going through the motions because you just need to make sure that you're focused and get it right every time. I guess what I was talking about more is the improvisational nature of what we do being a part of what we do. That said, I think that most people are not the kind of people to see us as a jam band.
It's more of a dance core.
That is our foundation, and I think that especially in today's day and age where Fish has gone from being a band performing at the front to a band selling out stadiums or arenas, and I think that people hear rock band that values improvisation and immediately start to move towards, oh, they must be some kind of jam band.
Right.
And I think that we love a lot of that music and still don't want to necessarily have our identifier be as simple as, oh, they're a jam band.
Here's the irony, though.
Yes.
Is that the jam band, even though it can mean a lot of things, the Panic crowd, the people that grew up on Dave Matthews, that was some jam element in the 90s, who are the people that
Humphreys McGee?
Humphreys McGee. These guys are jam band, of course, but some of these fans are gonna Venn diagram with you. A lot of those people, I think, are gonna love you, and they're the ones that
We're here to bridge the
buy
gap.
those albums and
TM.
dance.
What we are going for feels like a pursuit that, while it is improvisationally minded, is not only about the improvisation. There is to Tory's point of bridging the gap, there is a balance that can be struck between the danger element and the you want to go to every show because at any moment anything really could happen, and still trying to craft these like perfect musical moments where they hit you at the absolute gut level of the self, because the words are the stuff that you've never said to yourself but have thought for years. The music is crafted at like eliciting an emotional response.
Down on your knees, pretending it's forever. Wicked wild, unbridled and unfettered. Rather be warned, be warned, be warned, be warned, be warned. She'll kill you if you let her. Don't let her go. And if you see her, tell her hey, hello.
If I could be a band that people that liked jam music called a jam band and people that liked Fleetwood Mac said sounded like Fleetwood Mac, that would make me really happy.
Well, I mean, it's so hard. The genres right now, that Venn diagram, it's so hard to nail down if you want to describe certain people, like Fish, you could say, yeah, jam band, Grateful Dead, things like that. But the arrangements on your pieces are so tight, and part of it is because of the instrumentation. I mean, if you have your trombone and your trumpet, they do that, whatever they're doing, syncopated. You got 2 separate guitarists taking different licks. So there's going to be parts where the horn players just kind of put their horns down, dance around, while you guys can jam a little bit. But I don't consider that a jam band.
No, they're ingredients. They're jam ingredients, along with great writing, great songs, great lyrics. There's the elements of many ingredients that create this soup of something unique.
But the magic of it, we don't mean to keep on kissing you guys' asses here, but
So we will edit all this out later.
But it's the making it look easy part?
Just kind of circle back to the improv thing, finding the unique moments within, like, making sure you execute the part at the right time. All that stuff that you have to think about while you're on stage, whilst, like, you know, we are having the most fun of our lives, not being afraid, honestly, I think, to show that. And that happened, like, really quickly. Like, we have so much fun, and I think that's part of why everyone else has so much fun. But finding room to improvise within, like, the formula, so to speak, of putting on a show is, I think, part of what contributes to that vibe, and I think it translates to the audience. And
yeah, I mean, some of the best jazz players in the world are the ones that have you play the head, you come back to the head, in the middle you're just in space, and then you come back. It's not like it's just free form improv. I mean, you have to have rules. I don't know, do you think that that's something you try to do?
I think that free-form improv happening between maybe one or two people at a time max is where we generally sit. I realize this might sound like I'm a pretentious jam band fan, but I think that I wouldn't consider us a jam band because there's not a moment where we're truly like every single person on stage is breaking from the script and all of a sudden we're going to get to some new groove or some new crazy place that like we didn't even know we were about to get to. And I think that's what makes a jam band is like the fact that you jump in at minute 15 and you don't realize that it's a tweezer because you can't tell. They're not in A anymore and it's major and like what's going on.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's what a real jam band does. And and we just don't do that.
I mean, it's certainly happened, but that's, as Robbie elegantly put it before, you know, that's not what we're going for. This is a fun dance party, family vibe. We're going to give back as much as we can from what you give us, like as a audience member.
You know, you can see it. You can see right when you first get to your website. It's got the background video of you guys at the festivals, outdoor festivals. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What does it even say? What is it? What's first words when you first get to the website? What does it say?
I think it says ripe.
But
loading something delicious.
Loading something delicious.
Thank you,
Contact
Spock.
us.
But then, so once it loads, it just has clips of you guys just dancing on stage and moving around and like certainly the dance moves are improvised, but they are fantastic dance move. But
there's a couple coordinated
I know I can't help
ones.
myself. You get an easy taste of what kind of band you are just in that video. My question out of that is, you know, obviously you guys have the chops, you have the songs, and obviously the awesome dance moves on stage. But what really grabbed Ron and I, looking at the crowd, we're like, look at these people going nuts and singing along. And, you know, we were just discovering you guys. What's the progression from that first week when you guys started playing together and probably playing out, getting fans here and there, to the Paradise where you have a whole crowd singing your songs? Is that just perseverance, just hitting the road and doing that? Was that grassroots, reaching out personally? How did that work?
The last one.
So I think in terms of growth from the very beginning, I think that it definitely has been somewhat of a Road Warriors approach of we've gotten to as many markets as we can and we've pushed our music through people, everything from people that we know to like people that happen to be at shows for the better part of this decade and have been tireless in our efforts to make sure that this music has gotten out there. I also think that as it became apparent that the more of ourselves we were investing in this project and in this band, the more people were responding meaningfully to it. We kind of viewed that as an opportunity to take more responsibility for, okay, we're actually doing something that seems to be emotionally affecting people and that people seem to like. Why? And how do we go about making that a deeper and like more, I don't know about cathartic, joyful, whatever your word is for just that feeling of release. How do we make that more for people both who've been there since day one and who are also coming into this new thing unsure of what the rules of the road are for us and what it is to be an audience member at a Ripe show?
How do you do the why? Do you guys all sit in a room and sometimes have a meeting?
This is actually a band meeting.
Right here?
Yeah.
So in terms of how we get on the same page, it really is a flat democracy in-house. I like being able to answer the question of like, what are we about and why do we do what we do and why should you listen to us? One of the strengths that we've found as we've been in this game longer and longer has really been more unique than we ever gave it credit for, is all 7 of us really do feel that we're on the same page to the point where I feel relatively comfortable being represented by any member of the band when a member of the band is asked, like, so what are you guys about? And I think that the fact that our worldview, that our ethos, which Tory whispers in my ear to segue into the album title, but we can get to that in a second, but the fact that our worldview is actually based on the full investment and like total meaningful compromise of 7 to toot our own horns, fiercely intelligent, strong-willed, and
Good
like
looking.
on top of their game individuals. Once we got to a point where we were actually talking about ideas both in and out of the musical sphere as a unit that openly, that was where we started to see what we'd had up until that point, which, to oversimplify, was a band that brought the party, that was a party wherever they went, to something that was not quite as simple as that. We do have a world that we'd like people to get up to their necks in, and we do have things about us that we hope people think of when they think of what Ripe is. And I think that starting those conversations is like a growth point for a band.
How often do you have those conversations?
Right now, every day.
Every day. This is a business.
Oh,
so
yeah.
even though you guys are not just here, wearing suit and tie and making money at an office, this is a business.
While still coming from a place of like, this is certainly my baby, I'd like to speak for the 7 of us when I say that this is all 7 of ours' baby. But yes, in terms of the amount of time and focus that we put into it, this is our jobs as well.
When you think about entrepreneurs, you got to be all in or to be really successful. How do you balance that with the art? How do you balance that with the writing?
I mean, honestly, today we the last week has been like pretty crazy for us from a business perspective, and we haven't had the chance to rehearse as much as we'd like. Today we actually just got in the room for like a couple hours, and just speaking for myself, that was its own weird kind of balance. Being with the exact same people, just under such a different setting where we could just like play our instruments and have fun, and we're working on a new tune right now. That felt like its own balance away from the business stuff, even though it's the exact same 6 other guys in the room working on the same project.
Just to add to that, when we're not on the road, we rehearse a lot. We definitely set agendas for like the week. If we have scheduled a certain amount of rehearsals, we'll execute different things at different rehearsals. I can guarantee you that this won't change, but every once in a while, whatever we had on the agenda, just not happening. That's not the vibe. Sometimes like we start jamming and then we'll end up going for that release, whatever else we need from it. Sometimes that just kind of it just happens on its own. We try and fight it and do what we were going to do on what was on the agenda, but occasionally we just kind of give in to the fact that it might not be what is needed for like our best interest as like 7 musicians and artists, because it's like Ripe, it's definitely a sphere, it's definitely like it's a headspace for us most of the time, when we're not rehearsing, meeting, or practicing.
Well, the good thing now is you have some folks working with you now. So you have management now, and you have some PR firm working for you. Yep. So
our agent Jason has been huge for us. Yeah.
So when did all those people come into the fold? Have they been around for a while now?
Yeah. Well, Jason signed us to Paradigm pretty much right around the same time that we graduated from Berklee.
Okay. And when was that?
That was 2015.
Okay. So
we graduated in May, and I think he signed us in October, November of that same year.
So there's got to be a little bit of pressure off on like the business side of it now that you have people who are dedicated to do just that.
You would think so.
Or is it pressure on with the fact that you're signed now?
We're not signed.
Sorry, maybe I shouldn't have been using the word signed.
All right, I know what you mean.
We have a booking agent at Paradigm.
Right.
Okay.
We're not signed with a label or anything like that.
You have people that are working on that stuff in a sense for you, but is there more pressure to produce, to go to the next level all the time?
I think there's just more stuff that needs done now. We've gotten to another level now, and that just requires a lot more work and a lot more things that need to be accomplished.
I mean, I guess there's a bit of a responsibility in terms of making sure we deliver to our fans. Certain parts of it are not that hard because we love what we do.
There are far worse jobs.
I was going to say, as far as that like pressure that you were referring to, I think now that we finally have laid down our first record and it's like almost ready for release, really as soon as we finished recording in Toronto, we knew it was kind of time. It's like, let's go, do all these business things that we got to do and make it happen. But as soon as we got home, like the fire and the desire that, sorry, that wasn't supposed to rhyme, that everybody has, as like musicians and artists, like I think, that's why we wrote almost 15 songs since Toronto, and for me personally, if that felt like a pressure, we got to do this. It was just like everybody really wants to make music with the other people and like see where this thing's gonna go, also from a creative perspective. So for me, that doesn't feel like pressure because it's just exciting. But you might get a different answer from all 7 of us.
I agree with you.
I think that pressure in the sense of, and I can only speak for myself, when you're 7 and everyone's going around the room saying what they want to be when they grow up, and it's your turn and you say musician, I don't think it's possible to have a full grasp of what that means as an adult, in air quotes, that is actually doing this relatively self-motivated, relatively like nebulous in its definition of what you're even doing day to day job.
Or if you're 27.
Yeah. And
or if you're 50.
Damn, I really was hoping it would get more simple. But I think that, to Tory's point, like, we enjoy the absolute living hell out of it. And I think that any sort of pressure is just coming with the territory of, like, we've said that we are these jobs. Speaking for myself, for most of my life, I've identified in some way, shape, or form as a musician. And now it's musician with a capital M, because that's the career choice we've made. And, like, this is how we will present ourselves to the world as humans. What this is to us has just grown because we've gotten older, the stakes have gotten higher, and, like, being a musician means a different thing than it did when I was 15. The weight of that is felt sometimes, but we're all down. Like, we all are still firm in our resolve that this is in fact what we want to do.
To hang out in the side, you bring a couple of friends, I bring the good wine, and then I'm stumbling over my tongue. I know this isn't a game, you're like a holy book written for return. I try to understand, I just poke you wondering there. You see the smile that I'm lost, you got my spinning again. If you wanna talk about it, come out Saturday night. This small town joint on the east side rocks and tells sunrise. There ain't no mystery to the way that we could get down. Ooh, I feel a little lighter, hey, a little lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter, later than before. You come out to my home around 10:45. My expectations low, so I'm telling myself that you are showing up and I'm lost and headed down the big game. See, I'm just trying to follow the breadcrumbs. Equal parts of yellow parts and then it's a pie I get. It's not entirely genuine, but I do consider myself worthy of love. And now stumbling around in the dark, so send a smile on my way. If you wanna talk about it, come out Saturday night. This small town joint on the east side rocks and tells sunrise. There ain't no mystery to the way that we gon' get down. Given our history, and recommend that you follow me. Yeah, so you feel a little lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter. I feel a little bit lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter. Yeah, a little lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter. Like subjects, I get a little excited. You be holding me tightly. Some of my fire chasing angels. I keep my eyes on the sky. I feel a little lighter than before. Reckless subjects, you don't work get a little excited. You be holding me tightly. Some of the wildfire chasing these angels. You know I keep my eyes on the sky. I feel a little bit lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter. A little lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter. I feel a little bit lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter. Oh, that's all lighter than before. Ooh, I feel a little lighter than before.
These three fellows are great guys, and we'd like to thank Robbie, Tory, and John for sitting with us. We'd also like to thank all the fine people at Press Here Publicity for their help as well. See where you can catch Ripe on their tour and purchase their music at ripetheband.com. Go to abovethebasement.com where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen and subscribe to our podcast, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and look at all the nice pictures we post on Instagram. We are everywhere. On behalf of Ronnie and myself, thanks for listening, tell your friends, and remember, Boston music, like its history, is unique.